Hello, guys. It's today's 22nd of March, and it's usually I do daily video or try to do a daily video for a pandemic and try to connect it in a way if you're targeted. I don't think there is going to be a time for you for gangsters because during national emergency there is so much stuff to be done by different organizations, including people who run gangstalking. But yet have to be careful because through collective punishment, somebody can simply get you in a way that is going to be almost impossible to prove and it won't look suspicious. So, for instance, people can screw with your money. You can have, if you're older and live on social security, they simply can steal your social security and look like normal. There's a whole bunch of stuff they can do, or they can simply, as I said, make your life miserable to the point of that you're going to be with thousands of people on the street. And this is what I want to talk about because there is only from the last week, there are reports about 3 million unemployed people. And yet, the banks didn't call moratorium on mortgages. Neither national associations of homeowners association didn't call for it either. It means that people who live in the mortgage will still have to pay mortgages, even though they're unemployed, and most of them live from one paycheck to another. And this is tea, by the way, sweet tea, regular black tea with sugar, a lot of sugar. And this way, you just can end up being evicted, even though New York City stopped evictions, but this is by city ordinance. Here in Atlanta, I hear that Atlanta some of the power companies stopped disconnecting, which is a great thing. Thanks for them. But I have no idea how it's going to work, and nobody actually knows how it's going to work. Even for instance, in our building, now it's very hard to communicate because of the coronavirus. There are limited contacts between employees of the homeowners association and people who live here. So we have to kind of get appointments. There's a whole bunch of stuff to be done. So my point here, the biggest problem with this coronavirus thing is the loss of income of massive numbers of people. Okay, they're going to devalue labor in a way. So if you try to go and look for work, they're going to be so many people younger, stronger, and willing to work for less. Okay. So what happens? You're going to lose stuff that you own, like I don't know how about cars. I don't know but I'm talking about real property. I'm talking about like if you have a house or you have an apartment condominium. And in this case, it's even though it's going to be longer now, like to repossess or something like this, but they're going to be massive because this is what happens when you have so many people at once lose their work. Unless, as I said, there is some kind of a solution developed by the government that will forgive, or, for instance, if you have a mortgage, that this mortgage can be payments can be put on the back on the mortgage loan. So practically you pause the payments and then see what's happening. But will it happen? I have no idea. Right? So what do? What happen if you end up evicted? Not just by the bank. You can end up evicted by the homeowners association. Okay. While you're dealing with the bank, and there's a whole bunch of can snowball because as a situation. For instance, if you are out of work and you don't pay even utilities when you rent, there are different people deal with them. But if you live and there's access to homeowners association, what people can do is simply take those utilities and put them to the homeowners association, and this homeowners association will put them in their monthly fee in a way. And so if you fail there, you can be you can lose access to your property through homeowners association. Practically, homeowners association can evict you without even bank dealing with it yet, even before the bank dealing with you. So there's a whole bunch of things that can happen when you're dealing with national emergency that they are not worked out yet. So, what do you do just in case? Um, what I would suggest is I lived for a while in the earthquake zone in and we and it was a Soviet. I mean, it was Soviet bloc country, and they do this military drills, and not just military drills. When I was a young kid, and um, we were told that, for instance, you have to have a small box of everything that you need when you're on the street, practically. But it's not going to be food or things like this. First, what you have to do is to have proof of your identity. It means that on a minute notice, you have to have something on you that proves your identity 24 hours. Okay? So you have identity papers, a couple of statements from your credit card companies, even though when you're unemployed you can fail this thing, and just simply carry the cards that you can restore in case if you need credit lines and so on and so on. And then you have to have one statement from your homeowner association, and you have to have a mortgage document. Okay, why? Because what happens with your apartment or house when it's foreclosed on. It goes sometimes on depends. I mean, as I said, it depends on the situation, but it goes to an auction. And after this auction, after the bank put their fees there, sometimes they're strange fees. For instance, some of the banks put 20,000 lawyer fee, and it's gonna eat up your equity that you collected if you had this apartment or a house for a long time. But yet sometimes there's a small piece of money left that you have to prove that it's you, that you can go to the county and take whatever is left, because what they do is when the property is sold, there is after they add all the fees and rob you practically blind. If there is something left, they're supposed to leave it to the state as and claim money. Okay, so you have to go and you can collect. So make sure that you have it, because sometimes, for instance, they can do errors in your name, but you have to make sure that this why sometimes it's done can be done on purpose. Why? When it's error in your name, when you do search after, it doesn't come up anywhere with an error. So if they fix it, they have to have a former loan and a property number and a lot number. Make sure that you have those type of things, those documents that actually really, really important for you. Then you have to have your personalized items ready, a few sets of clothing, and minimalist list of kitchen items. You know, um, that you can restart. So you end up in a hotel or you end up in a place where kind of somebody to take you in, give you a room or something. You can have a minimum number of items that you can start with. A small electric stove, with a couple of small pans that you can cook, or one that you can cook all of it and whatever you eat and stuff like this. I mean, forks, couple of a coffee machine, small one if you have one. So this is one of those things. So this way, if something happens and you come, for instance, and you're not letting the property, or like homeowners association closing you, you have to have something that you can start with. Okay, where are you going to store it? I have no idea. It's up to you and how do you carry it in a car or in a friend's house or whatever. But I just want to tell you that this is really interesting stuff. You see, what is happening this week? It's it's like a big training, military training. It's something that we don't know what's going to happen because uh, even people in power, they haven't experienced yet in the past, in this generation or even few generations, as people say, even in the history of this country, there was no such thing except Great Depression. And what's going to be interesting is because New York became a part of actually how call it it's number one spot for this virus. Do you really think the what markets how they're going to open, if they're going to open, and what's going to happen? And then so it's going to be snowboarding for next week as well. With things we don't know, maybe everything's going to go smooth. Who knows? But if it doesn't, if Chicago wants to close partially, um, some of the counties, for instance, even here in Atlanta, southern Fulton County, they called for a specific time after 11 to 5 curfew. So it can happen everywhere. Chicago, New York, I'm not even talking New York. They're talking stuff about London. So my point here is, again, be ready with small things. You see, remember, you cannot be, it's not possible to to carry a lot of stuff, but take something that can never be replaced. You see what I mean? Which is those your pictures, scanning stuff to scan, your vlogs or your your stuff with that you do art a little bit or something. But my point here is that it's going to be really hard on you to do a lot of things, and that's why switch like it to minimalism and take whatever you can because, as I said, uh, I have a experience behind me of people of previous generations because former Soviet Union, the European part, there were cycles of wars, and they had this um, really short notice: grab something and run. So you have to have something done in advance that it's really, really you think of that it's really important. What's you gonna can you live without it? Can you live with this or can you live with that? And then you put it together and plus few things that you survive with. And if time comes. Don't forget there's very ugly situation. For instance, if you're evicted, okay, in some states, for instance, there are only a few days. Your stuff in the room can be um, declared abandoned property. Okay, so what's going to happen with this crisis is a lot of people they won't have enough money to pay for rent. They won't have enough money to pay for homeowner association or mortgages and mortgages. Sorry, and usually what happens is they're going to rely on credit cards. The credit card is going to go up as a and credit card going to have indication um, of people start charging more. It means they're in trouble. And they know that. You see, I was an account analyst. And even though I didn't work with credit cards, but I worked with the stuff that kind of gave me peace of mind of knowledge. That's it. It wasn't even very well paid. But my point here is that kind of opened to me flow of information and not just information, but curiosity outside the work. I was, I was reading things. So what, as I said, happens is there's time comes that you don't have a choice, and this don't have a choice. You have to make choices. Before that, whatever is really good for you, you take it. Get ready, and something happens, and you go. Um, I hope it doesn't happen to anybody. Really, I hope the government going to come up and say no mortgages, post mortgages, credit moratorium for several months. United States is the most powerful economic country in the world, and they can do it. If they didn't do if they wouldn't do it, it means they don't want to do it. It means there is a whole bunch of people that influence financial. Actually, just the opposite. The financial people that influence the government and so on and so on. It's going to be really, really ugly if they don't do this because Italy did it. And even though you see there's so many people dying there and so on, but they did it. They did moratorium on credit. That's it. And I hope here's going to be the same. You have a good evening. I will try to do lunch tomorrow. Thank you.